We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. Homeopathy has become very popular in the United States. My guest is Dr. Stuart Garber, who has his own line of homeopathic preparations. And Dr. Garber manufactures his products here in Los Angeles, and he is a graduate chiropractor and has a PhD in homeopathy. Dr. Garber, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you, Joshua.
Happy to have you here. And so for my listening audience who doesn't really quite understand, what is homeopathic medicine?
Well, in a nutshell, homeopathic medicine is a comprehensive system of medicine that's based on the concept that like cures like. That something that would cause a set of symptoms in an otherwise healthy person is the same substance that could help heal a person who has those symptoms.
All right. That's interesting. And you do call them homeopathic medicines, and that is why you're allowed to make specific claims for them?
Yes, that's one of the things with homeopathic medicines. They are considered drugs, homeopathic drugs, by the FDA, and therefore claims can be made for them. And
where did you go to school?
Well, I did my undergraduate degree in biology and chemistry at State University of New York in New Paltz, New York.
Yay, yes.
Got my chiropractic degree from Los Angeles College of Chiropractic, and my PhD from Currenta University in Los Angeles.
And you were one of the first to get a PhD in homeopathy in the United States?
The first.
The first. So what year was that, can I ask?
That was 1981.
So that was a long time ago. So you really, what year was it, 81?
No, 80. 81 was the chiropractic degree, 97 was the PhD.
97, okay.
Yeah.
And so really, you're kind of a little ahead of the curve here on these kind of studies.
Always have been.
And you just found, as a much younger guy, that homeopathy just worked as a concept, and you traveled in Europe and saw they were using it?
Exactly. I was doing a lot of lecturing all around the world in different chiropractic techniques, and I had been using homeopathy and herbal medicine and nutrition as part of my practice, and I was doing a lot of specialized work in chiropractic involving the skull, the cranium, doing cranial work, and I was lecturing around, and most of the people I lectured to in Europe were an eclectic group of alternative doctors, mostly working with homeopathy, and I just had a real affinity for them. So I started studying more classical homeopathy, more of the original homeopathy, and it just came to pass that this new program was the first school to ever get state authorization to offer advanced degrees in homeopathic medicine, and I was at the right place at the right time, and there I was.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. So what did you bring to the formulations? What do you think are the advancements that you've brought to homeopathy in your formulations?
A big one, because homeopathy can be very complicated, and the public sometimes is like, I don't even know where to start, right. And then they have to go see a homeopathic practitioner, which is a great thing to do, but for the broader audience, there has to be some way for them to take advantage of homeopathy and have it be easy for them. Now, these formulas that I put together are kind of a unique form because they're not even labeled as homeopathic remedies. They're actually labeled as dietary supplements. And one of the reasons is because of the unique nature of the products. I created the tagline for the product line called Heal Different because I think that's what it's actually offering people. It's homeopathy, but it's not. It's nutritional supplements, but it's not. It is a unique blend of what we call biotherapy formulas, and that's really the key. Biotherapy formulas can be homeopathic and they can be dietary, but when you put them together, they're dietary supplements, but they're still potentized the way homeopathic remedies are potentized. And what the biotherapies do, there are 3 of them, and part is plant-based, part is mineral-based, part is animal-based. They allow the body to heal very specifically, treat symptoms, and heal at the same time without any side effects. In fact, in the 12 years since I created the first formula, there has not been one reported side effect.
Right. And may I ask you, for example, in, say, the sleep formula, what are the ingredients you're using?
Okay, well, let me explain, because all of the formulas have the same formula structure, okay? And a big portion of each formula is what's known as gemotherapy. Now, gemotherapy has nothing to do with gemstones. Gemotherapy are made from the new growth parts of plants. That's where the buds and the shoots and the rootlets and where all that potential energy is that's going to go into making the mature plant.
And what's that called again?
It's called gemotherapy.
I see.
GEMMO therapy. In fact, once a plant matures, a lot of those active constituents that are found in the buds are no longer there. So it's almost like plant stem cell therapy. You know, another name for herbal therapy is phytotherapy, plant therapy, and sometimes we call gemotherapy as like embryo phytotherapy. It's like that new cell that's just, you know, going to explode with potential. The other part of it is lithotherapy. Now, lithotherapy are homeopathic preparations made from mineral-containing rock. And I specify like that because, as opposed to individual homeopathic minerals, the lithotherapy has the synergy of all the naturally occurring minerals found in each particular rock. And what they do is they allow for immediate absorption of those minerals at the cellular level. So they don't have to go through the digestion and process and getting absorbed and finally getting into the cell.
I see.
You know, there's that old saying, you are what you eat. Yeah. But that's really not true. You are what you eat and digest and finally assimilate. And until you get to the cellular level, there really hasn't been any nutrition taking place. It's all been kind of outside the body, in a sense. So the lithotherapy allows that immediate absorption of the minerals into the cell because of the way it's prepared homeopathically. And those minerals then can participate in enzyme reactions in the cell, which is what drives all the functions of the body.
Right.
And then that last part is organotherapy. Now, organotherapy is nothing new. It was introduced into homeopathy in 1836. And what it is homeopathic preparations of healthy organ tissue. Okay, and we use a bovine source from happy LA cows, happy California cows.
Okay, good.
And those are potentized in such a way that they will either stimulate the target organ or calm it down or just support it. So depending on what we're trying to do with each formula, we use a combination of those different ingredients. Now, you brought up the sleep formula. The sleep formula is our number one formula, it and the anxiety formula, which is maybe a sad commentary on the state of the world these days. But nonetheless, that's the case. And it just, most people will take it, and even on, it's not like a drug or, you know, like a sleeping pill or like an Ambien where you're just gonna, you know, go out. But what it does is it allows you to fall asleep if that's your issue. It allows you to stay asleep if that's your issue, and return to sleep. So, no matter, you know, some people, they have no trouble falling asleep, but 2 hours later they're up and their mind's racing and they can't get back to sleep. So it'll allow for all of that. In fact, all the formulas are very condition specific in that way, so that it would be a no-brainer, so to speak, as to what it's for. It says right on the label: sleep, anxiety, depression, constipation, whatever.
Alrighty, so I did not know any of this about how your formulation was advanced. I did not know. So what are the ingredients then in the sleep formula, based on the new theories you're talking about, the new modalities you're talking about? If that's the correct term.
Okay, if you want. Actually, this
tell me,
because they're very proprietary, but that's okay. I'll share it. It's on the label anyway.
Okay, good. Yeah, I figured.
Okay, so the gemotherapies are I use a combination of from hawthorn, from lime tree, and from fig tree, which has a calming effect on each one, on the mind, in the chest, and in the gut. which a lot of people, when they're anxious or not being able to sleep, they get flutters in their stomach, or they get palpitations in their heart, or they can't turn their mind off. So it's working on all three of those. The lithotherapy is from something called rhodonite, which has a combination of minerals that also help relax the brain. And then the organ therapy in there is something called bulbinum, which is made from part of the midbrain where the sleep center is, and it's in a potency that helps calm the brain.
Wow.
And that
wow, this really is advanced product. I'm glad you're on the show. I had no idea.
I'm glad I am too.
Yeah, I had no idea, really.
Yeah.
And you came up with these formulations based upon you're receiving a PhD and all the effort you put into studying, realizing this is just good science and no one else is doing it.
Correct. I'll tell you how it came about was very interesting. I had been using all of the individual chemotherapies biotherapies. When I first learned about, I had always been using the organotherapies in my practice. They're very useful. When I learned about lithotherapy and chemotherapy, which were, most of the research was done on those in the 50s in France by some really top physicians there. I just thought these were the greatest things in the world, and I was using them individually in my practice. And then one day I got a challenge. The challenge, of course, came from a patient, where all my challenges come from. And this was one of my oldest, dearest patients, and she's one of those cantankerous women that hates doctors and hates taking anything, and but loves me and do anything I tell her to do. It was great. I saw her kids and her grandkids and her everything. Anyway, one day she calls me on the phone and she goes, "What can you do to help me get off my Synthroid?" Now, Synthroid is, for those who don't know, is a very popular synthetic thyroid hormone. Right. It's probably one of the most widely prescribed drugs there are.
Right.
And I said, "Well, let's see, you've been on it for what, like 25 years?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, nothing, because the conventional medical wisdom is that once you're on a hormone replacement drug like that for that length of time, it basically shuts down the gland's ability to produce any hormone on its own, and you're stuck with it for the rest of your life."
Right.
And so this is almost verbatim. She said, "Well, I already took myself off of it, and I feel much better since I stopped taking it, but I know it's going to get me in trouble, so what are you going to do about it?" And I said, "Well, the first thing I'm going to do is tell you to go back on it. But knowing you and knowing you're not going to do that, I have this idea," because I had been thinking that the different biotherapies put together in a certain structure would have a synergistic effect and give a much even better effect than any of them individually. So I said, "I'm going to put something together for you. You're going to have to take it religiously. I'm going to check your blood every 2 weeks. We're going to make sure that your thyroid stays under control. And if it doesn't, you're going to go back on the Synthroid." And she said, "Okay." Long story short, it took about 3 different, changes in the formulation. All of a sudden, all of her thyroid levels started balancing out. And after about 6 months, she had a perfectly normal...
Well, just after 25 years on medication.
Yeah.
Hey, that's impressive.
It was impressive,
yeah.
And I was thrilled. She was thrilled.
Right.
But from my scientific mind, it was just one anecdotal case.
Okay.
So I said, "Okay, that's great." Right on the heel of that, another patient came in who had been under my care with regular homeopathic medicine, and she had been doing well in every area of her care, except she was still having problems sleeping. I didn't want to change the remedy that I had already had her on because it was doing so good in every other area. And by the way, the biotherapies are known not to interfere with regular homeopathic remedies, so that's one of the reasons I had been using them in my practice anyway. I told her about the thyroid. I said, "Let me put something together for you along that same structure that I think would affect sleep." And she said, "Yes." All my patients do. It's very
nice. And good patients.
So I did that, and she slept on the very first night. Didn't take away any of the other benefits that she had from her regular remedy. And at that point, I said, "Oh, I think I hit on something here really important." So I shared those formulas with colleagues who tried them with their patients, and then they came back to me and said, "How about some more of that?" Right. And I didn't really want to reinvent the wheel. If there were products out there that addressed issues that were addressing them well, I was fine continuing using them. I only developed formulas for individual patients in my practice where I wasn't happy with what else was out there, which is why I only have a small number of formulas. I have a few more in R&D right now, but there you have it. So each one was for a particular patient with a specific issue. But the nature of how the biotherapies work, these remedies work, they had a much broader approach. So even though I developed, let's say, what I call my FemCycle formula, which is for female hormonal balance, I developed that for a patient who had a polycystic ovary problem, and she couldn't get pregnant, that kind of thing. I developed this formula for her, and it was actually really cool, because several months later I got in the mail a Polaroid of the ultrasound with the fetus, and that was like,
so your medicine worked.
That was her telling me that the formula worked. And but once we started using that formula more widespread, we worked, because it was designed just to balance the female hormonal cycle and not push anything one way or the other. It had benefit to the whole range, from young girls getting their first periods and having emotional ups and downs and physical discomforts, all the way through the reproductive years, everything from PMS, fertility issues, endometriosis, and then into menopause and hot flashes and night sweats and all of those things. So
you're saying this is the women's formula, and it addressed all those issues? It
addressed all those issues, because because of what it was meant to do, how it was designed by me to balance, as opposed to push something one way or the other. And I think that was really important. And all of the other formulas kind of fell in line the same way. The joint formula, which I designed for long-term repair of degenerated joints, we found that it worked for all kinds of joint problems, and even short-term immediate pain relief. And that's one I'm really excited about too, because all these formulas are safe for children and also safe for pets. And I have a lot of animals, including my own dogs, who are on that joint formula, and elderly dogs who, are walking around in such pain, or are on these really dreadful drugs that the vets said. I talk to my vet about this all the time. They're doing great. I have half the dogs at my local dog park that I go to are on this.
Well, that's nice.
Great. Yeah.
Wow. And you just this science just came to you based on your studies. You put these together. That's very impressive, really.
Thank you.
Very impressive. Well, actually, Dr. Garber, we're actually running out of time. Please give us your contact information. Where can we buy these products?
Okay. Well, the products are available on my website at www.drgarbers.com. That's drgarbers.com. Also through Amazon. They're at Whole Foods markets throughout the West Coast, and several other small chains from San Diego up to the Canadian border.
Fantastic. Very interesting. Thank you for being a guest on my show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I enjoyed being here.
Thank you. You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Josh Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Young Connection, your one-stop connection for all your graphic design and commercial printing needs. Young Connection is a full-service printing and media design company dedicated to providing the highest level of customer service and satisfaction. Young Connection provides swift response and rapid turnaround services for banners, brochures, business cards, letterheads, church bulletins, funeral programs, flyers, logo design, posters, and much, much more, all at an affordable price. Young Connection, the official printing company of LA Talk Live. Give them a call at 310-491-3336. That's 310-491-3336, or visit their website at www.youngconnection.com. That's www.youngconnection.com. Young Connection Printing and Media Services, proud sponsors of LA Talk Live, where it's more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call. inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
This is Shaquem Williams, and I'm with the Shock Factor here on LA Talk Live. We would like to introduce to our small businesses our new business directory for the month of June 2014. So let me explain how it works. We will set you up with 100 commercials, 3 times a day, every day, and 4 times a day on the weekends at peak hour for 1 whole month. And that's not all. We'll even provide you with your own professional audio commercial. For more information about joining our new business directory here at LA Talk Live, please contact Shaquem at latalklive.com. That's SHAKIM at latalklive.com.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Josh Lane. My guest has been a guest on the show several times. Ora Miller works with how to have healthy buildings and so we can have healthy lives, works with cell phone issues and all sorts of important ideas as far as the environment vis-a-vis our good health. Orem, welcome back to Here's to Your Health. I appreciate
Thank you, Josh. Glad to be here.
It's fun to have you on.
Thank you.
Usually I let Dr. Hans Kugler interview you because he has more of a science mind than I do.
All right, that was fun.
But Hans will be on later today with some guests. What is it that you do, actually?
So, I am a building biologist, a certified...
Actually, excuse me, Orem, hold on a second. This is live television.
All right.
Is Bonnie Matthews on the line with Freaka Foods?
I sure am. Hi, how are you?
Hello there, Bonnie. Thank you for calling in to Here's to Your Health. My friend Ora Miller will be waiting a few minutes. And so for my guests who are just tuning in, Freaka Foods is on the line. Are you calling in from where? Minneapolis?
No, I'm actually in Costa Mesa, and actually I'm no longer with Freaka Foods, but I'm the author of the Freaka Cookbook.
Oh, okay.
I'm in Costa Mesa now.
All righty. So please tell me what exactly, for my listeners, what is Freaka as a food substance, and please spell it.
Sure. It's Freekeh, and what it is, it's a roasted grain. It's an immature green durum wheat, and Freaka is actually a process of roasting a young immature grain, and it's been around as a process for like 2,000 or 3,000 years. It's originating from the Middle East, but the reason it's getting a lot of recognition lately is because it has a lot of health benefits, and it's got the same protein and fiber as quinoa, so it's a really nice alternative to people who are looking to add more protein and fiber in their diet compared to like rice or even brown rice.
That sounds good. And the term Freaka, is that a term from the area? Is that in Persian, or what language is that?
Yeah, it's I believe it's an Arabic word, and it means to rub, because the process of producing Freaka was actually created by accident. These two villagers had a fight. One guy burnt the other guy's immature crops in the spring, and then they ended up with these burnt, charred grains, so they kind of rubbed off the chaff, and that's where the word Freaka came from, because it means to rub. And they ended up cooking it up like rice, and they're like, hey, this tastes good. So it's become sort of a traditional food in that area for many years.
All righty, and so you just feel that this is a kind of a... And by the way, how did you run into Freaka Foods? Were you traveling in the Middle East?
No, I actually used to work part-time at Trader Joe's, and they had a private label package of the grain a long time ago, and I started eating it, and it aligned really well with my own personal weight loss journey. I lost like 130 pounds teaching myself how to eat healthier, and I liked it because of the protein and the fiber, because I was, trying not to eat so many simple carbs. I was looking for more complex carbs. But lo and behold, I ended up, starting a company with some folks in Minneapolis called Freaka Foods a few years ago to help start growing it organically in the United States. So that's what kind of led me to the cookbook, because people started seeing my recipes online and photos, and there you have it.
Well, that sounds good. And so I mix it, for example, with with onions and carrots and make it into a stir fry. Is that it?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, pretty much any recipe that you enjoy already that, that you use rice or quinoa for, or even farro, for example, or couscous, you can substitute this grain for. So, the book that I've got has about, I think, 95 recipes, just to show people a different way to integrate this grain into their diet in an everyday, simple way.
Very nice. And Bonnie, what's the name of your book?
It's called the Freaka Cookbook, and it's available in stores nationwide next week, but it's online at Amazon.com right now.
Oh, very good. That's good timing. Available next week. Well, good for you. Very good for you.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
So can I also have this Freaka food with, say, if I'm eating lamb or if I'm eating eggs or eating fish, is that kind of a side dish too?
Absolutely, yeah. If you want to make it like a risotto-style dish, just to have it on the side, it's fantastic. It's great with kebabs. But a lot of my recipes that I featured on the Dr. Oz show with my weight loss story had to do with like making sort of one-pot meals where I integrate a bunch of vegetables, other protein, and the Freaka together. So then you can have three or four servings of it throughout the week, which is kind of a nice, easier way to think about food.
I see. Well, that sounds very good.
Yeah.
That sounds very good. Well, listen, Bonnie, I very much appreciate you calling and for being a guest today on Here's to Your Health. Thanks for calling. And once again, where can I get your new cookbook and what's the name?
You can get it at Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and Costco nationwide starting next week. And it's called The Freaka Cookbook. And it's also online on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com right now.
Well, Bonnie, thanks very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Josh Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Thank you for tuning in to LA Talk Live, reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. Stay tuned.
It started out like a totally normal day.
I love you.
I mean, I guess I was a little sweaty, and I was definitely sore. I thought I had gas. Turns out I was having a heart attack. Heart disease is the #1 killer of American women. So now I take care of myself and tell the other women in my life to do the same. Make it your mission to save your life and the lives of the women you love. Find out more from the American Heart Association at goredforwomen.org.
How's it going?
I'm having a stroke.
Are you going to shake my hand?
I'm having a stroke.
Wow, you're not even moving your arm.
I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear. Look for FAST. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911 immediately. Know the sudden signs. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. So my guest is Orem Miller, who was here a few minutes ago and has been here many times on the show. And Orem works with environmental issues relating to our homes and buildings. That's of great importance. Orem, welcome back to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you, Josh.
So for my listening audience who didn't catch your last time you were here, what do you do? What do you focus on?
So I'm a building biologist. The German pronunciation of those terms are Baubiologie, which means Bau is the German word for building, and Biologie is their pronunciation and spelling of our word biology. So what we do is we focus on the impact that buildings have on people's health. So that would include my personal field, or the field that I'm focusing on now in the last 4.5 years since I moved to California from Minneapolis, is electromagnetic fields. And that includes electric fields, magnetic fields from house wiring, radio frequencies, all the wireless devices, including smart meters, cell phones, tablets, and then so-called dirty electricity. But we also focus on indoor air quality and building materials to make sure that they don't make people sick from outgassing, mold, and that sort of thing. So that's what we focus on.
And these issues that you focus on now, pretty much everyone recognizes these are issues of importance. It's not like it was, say, in 1975 when people said, oh, no, that has no merit.
True. We've come a long way in terms of understanding and recognizing that building materials can make people sick. So the carpet manufacturers quietly in the 90s took formaldehyde out of carpets. Because,
they did?
Oh, yeah, because mothers were starting to complain about ill health of their toddlers crawling around on these carpets, and what you smell when you move into a new home, the so-called new home smell, is all the outgassing. Just last week, I'm going back tomorrow to a lady in Orange County who moved into a new house, built 8 months before she moved in last week, or started to move in, and she got sick. She had headaches, and we traced it to the formaldehyde or the outgassing from the particle board for the cabinets in the kitchen.
The particle board is a problem, isn't it?
But that can be sealed. Okay. There's a product that you can use to seal that with. But my focus is actually electromagnetic fields and all their manifestations, as I mentioned. And everyone who knows about that field is aware of smart meters, which are the new digital electric meters, and of course also gas and water, that transmit their data several times a day or once a day, but also send out a beacon signal to talk to each other and synchronize the network many times a minute, actually, all over the country. And there are a number of people, not the majority, but a number of people who are made ill by that, as well as from their Wi-Fi routers, their cell phones, their cordless telephones, their tablets. And for these people who make up 3 to 5% of the nation's population who are known to be electrically hypersensitive, and then 1/3 of the population is actually affected and doesn't know it, and they are symptomatic, these people comprise 70% of my clientele. So I help them navigate a world where they don't know all that needs to be done to reduce the EMFs in their home. They don't know about the other types of EMFs that we recognize that most people don't know about, which is house wiring, electric fields and magnetic fields from house wiring. And we also help them to be able to tolerate these influences when they go out of their house. So that's what I do. I have a website, www.createhealthyhomes.com. It's all one word, and homes is plural. createhealthyhomes.com. I have a tremendous amount of information there on electric fields, on articles on EMFs, which has separate articles, links to separate articles that I wrote on these different types of EMFs. Comments from clients is an important page. Then I have pages that have links to other websites that have documentation on all this. Because you asked earlier, you know, where are we now today compared to 35, 40 years, or 25, 35 years ago? And the answer is, we're in the dark ages in America. We are so co-opted, not to get too political here, but literally the corporations run our regulatory agencies. We cannot trust the regulatory agencies, in my opinion, and in the opinion of my profession and the EMF safety community in this country and worldwide. We cannot trust government regulatory agencies to protect us. They do the bidding of industry. So as a result, these products are hazardous to your health, just like cigarettes 50 years ago.
And can you give me an example of a product that you feel, based on your research, that we are widely using is not a good idea?
Well, that's relative, Josh, and that's an important point to make. I mean, I use a cell phone. I was texting a client who I'm going to be meeting after the show with my cell phone right before I came on the air. And so the point is, there are people who, well, no, let me step back. Research shows, and this is well documented, that everyone is affected by these technologies on a cellular level. Not everyone is symptomatic. And that's exactly the same case as we had with cigarettes 50 years ago. Those who chain smoked, I mean, anybody who's in the healthcare field, I've asked them, what is the percentage of people who developed chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and lung cancer? And it was below 50%. So by the odds, your chances of developing symptoms with the use of these technologies is in your favor. It's more than 50% chance you'll never develop any symptoms, and you could use them regularly. All the wireless devices that I mentioned, cell phones, cordless phones, wireless, Wi-Fi, being near smart meters, and never have any symptoms. But the FCC safe exposure levels are only based on experiments that were done, decades ago, where they only looked for and focused on heating effects. They waited till they saw coagulation of proteins and damage to the metabolic processes on that gross level, and they completely ignored these subtler effects, the so-called biodisruptors on a cellular level, that the European researchers are paying attention to. Now, how many of your listeners know that right now, in France, they have pulled Wi-Fi out of elementary schools across the country?
Oh, I did not know that.
And they are in the process of, legislation is pending now and in various stages, to remove Wi-Fi from schools in, not just France, but Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Israel, Russia, India, and Australia.
Do you think that'll make the press of the United States?
Well, you have to look at the politics. As always, follow the money. And so these media companies are very big advertisers in media. I'm not blaming President Obama. I'm personally a progressive Democrat, so I'll say that right up front. I'd rather see a Democrat in the White House than a Republican. But whoever gets in office is sat down, from what I understand, and told, you campaign one way, but you're going to govern another way, and we run the show. Just, you can do what you want socially, but don't touch these things, like the defense industry that's blocks from here, where the studio is in Los Angeles. So the point is, who did President Obama appoint as chairman of the FCC? Tom Wheeler, who is comes straight out of Comcast. So the point is, the deck is stacked against us. You have to look at what Europe and the rest of the world is doing as far as these issues are concerned. And there's one very important reason for that. They pay for the health care of their people. We don't. So they have zero interest or zero motivation to allow a health crisis to perpetuate that's going to cost them money right out of their pockets in terms of taking care of the health effects of these people from these devices. Because it is now the case that in these countries, people are showing up in their clinics, costing them money to take care of them from use of these devices. And that's why they're taking Wi-Fi out of these schools, because parents and teachers and children are complaining about the symptoms from, not everybody, but some.
Or thank you for mentioning this on the air. I had not heard this, and I think my listeners would be a progressive bunch, would be very happy to hear this, and it's important to protect themselves and their children?
Well, yes. So you have to be proactive. So to sum it up, because I know our time is limited, I tell my clients to think of this issue in the following way. They have to ask themselves the following rhetorical question. How many cigarettes am I willing to smoke today? and every day on a long-term basis. If I'm comfortable with half a pack, okay, then that's what you're doing. Are we comfortable with our children smoking? Most parents would say no, but their children are exposed. There are changes that occur on the cellular level. DNA damage occurs. The protein synthesis is affected. Even below levels that are considered safe by the FCC, even below so-called thermal levels. These are biological effects on the cellular level, enzymatic, metabolic, and they have short-term and long-term consequences.
Excuse me, and how did you get involved with this profession?
Well, I've been involved or interested in ecology for a long time, and this is a way to actually learn to blend the green building movement and environment and sustainable living with health. And so what we learn in the building biology profession, and the website for our profession is hbelc.org, stands for Healthy Building Environmental Learning Center. So hbelc.org, and you can see there a list of practitioners around the U.S. and Canada who do this work, besides myself. You can see information on seminars. We just had a study day. We do this 3 times a year here in Southern California, and we had 20 people come, most of whom are going through the training process at some point or another. So there's a burgeoning interest in this as a profession, actually.
That's well, good. It sounds like the building trade needs it. Building trade is...
And they're interested, too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I work with builders. I'll be going in a few days to see a house that's under construction. I met with the homeowner and her builder, and the electrician recommended me. I know him already. So we made plans 6 months ago to do this in a way that avoids these EMFs in the first place. That's where you really want to go. So I'll be going on site to the construction site and making sure that they're implementing what I recommended. And so you go back periodically and verify this, and that's really the best way to prevent it.
And what about cell phones again? Tell me what's the problem with cell phones?
Okay, so the problem is there's actually a document that was sent out of committee called the Committee Resolution 18 from the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe in Strasbourg, Austria, in May of 2011, and you can link to that from my website, which is an incredible document, because this is the Council of Europe is the equivalent there at for the European Union, which has 47 member countries, including all the countries in Europe except for Great Britain, and 350 million people. And they are equivalent, that council, to our Consumer Product Safety Commission. This council makes recommendations to the governments of Europe in terms of what they recommend in terms of the safety of devices from a medical standpoint. And so they have come to the conclusion, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, that there is evidence, there's abundant evidence, thousands of studies, not zero evidence, as these individuals from these companies and electric utilities say. When I've gone to these meetings locally, and they get up and say that there's no evidence that there's any harm from any of these technologies that's documented as far as their organizations have found. The International Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE, the EPRI, Electric Power Research Institute, which is the research arm of the electric utilities based in San Francisco, and they say that they've looked at all the studies and found no evidence that there's any harm. And I sit there in the audiences, and you can't even say anything. You have to write your questions down on a card and hand it up front. And this guy, spoke out and said, "Well, I have a follow-up question," and the moderator shut him down immediately and said, "I'm sorry, that's not our format. You'll have to write your follow-up question on a card." So if their goal was to engender trust from the community, they failed miserably, because people were steaming and fuming when they left. So I didn't say anything. I just listened. And then I spoke to these individuals, these engineers, afterwards, and I said, "Okay, you say that there's no evidence. Let me show you this thick document here. I literally have a folder, Josh, and this is
and what did the men say?
And I've called this. I actually went through this just a few days ago, but I said, look at what they're doing in Europe. And they said, "I didn't know this. My organization is not aware of this." I said, "Well, your organization cherry picks the data."
But these men decided they wouldn't do any independent research on their own.
Well, no, these are just engineers.
Right.
And everybody says, I mean, I deal with people who call me up and email me, and they say, my child is not well. They're having problems in school from the Wi-Fi, And I say, well, is it a public school or a private school? If it's a private school, we can do something about it. If it's a public school, forget it, because they always point to the FCC, which says that this is the level, 1 milliwatt per square centimeter, that's safe, and there's no evidence that there's any harm below that, which is not true. So, anyway.
Well, Orem, this was very interesting.
Thank you. So my website
Upsetting
again is,
a little bit, but very interesting. And what is your website, please?
www.createhealthyhomes.com.
Orem, I appreciate you being on it very
You're
much.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Orem.
Josh.
Thank you. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Josh Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with my co-host, Raphael Cohen-bacry, after these important messages.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to the Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network. And now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dawn Christie, inviting you to join me every Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, for my all-new show, The Dawn Christie Show. Join me as I discuss love, spiritual readings, your purpose, why am I born, what am I here to do. So don't forget to tune in The Dawn Christie Show at 1 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream TV, reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Welcome back to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. Raphael Cohen-bacry, registered pharmacist, educator for boron homeopathic medicines, host of Here's to Your Health. Welcome, Raphael.
Thank you, Josh. Welcome to this segment of Here's to Your Health. And today I'm very excited to welcome two guests, Brigitte Perrault from the Perrault magazine and Stephen Mana-Trink. Is it okay if I call you Mana?
All my friends do.
Okay, so I'm your friend.
Yes.
So you're an epigenetics therapist, and you're also a columnist on Brigitte's magazine. So that's why we have both of you here today. Thank you so much for being here.
We're delighted to be here. Thank you.
And Brigitte, let's start with you. You know, I've looked at your beautiful magazine. It's very elegant, very gorgeous.
Thank you.
And it's a mainly digital magazine.
Yes, it's only digital.
Okay, and I would love for you to tell us what was your what what triggered that, wish for your own magazine, which is pretty awesome, I think.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, first, thank you for having us here. Mana and I were delighted to be here. It's just wonderful to meet you. My God, the idea behind the magazine and the way it was conceived, it's a combination of a few things. I'm a geek, first of all, and when I saw the digital format of it was a National Geographic magazine last year, I was very impressed because you can watch videos, you can listen to music, you can participate to different causes, and you can just be, it's interactive.
It's so much more than a magazine, that's true.
It really is. And it can be global as well, because anybody can get the link, and at the moment we are already in 17 countries in 6 months, so I'm very excited about that.
You started in January, right?
Yes, I launched it on January 1st at midnight, and it's been quite an adventure since then. It's been very, very magical. And so there's the interactive aspect of it and the cutting edge aspect of it that thrilled me, and also my own interests, my own background. And I've been, I studied neuroscience, and I also, I've been involved in humanitarian causes. I've been an activist for the environment for 12 years. So I just kind of combined everything. And I wanted to create an educational magazine and an inspirational magazine. And because you can be interacting with it, I thought, what a great combination. So I started doing my due diligence, and I just wanted to really put emphasis on educational articles, and I have an elite group of columnists, and Mana's here with me, so I'm delighted about that.
And actually, I'm sorry to interrupt, but last month my guest was Dr. Payam Hakimi, who's also a columnist, and that's how we got.
He's a regular on your show, isn't he?
Yes.
So he's part of my magazine, and I'm so happy about that as well. So it's just, and there's a kind of movement. I think we can all feel it at the moment. There's people want to help, they want to participate, they want to be involved. So one of the big, apart from my, and I'll go over the section of the magazine in a second, but the big, what's been very, very popular is that every month I feature a man or woman with a cause. So I cover the environment, I cover the humanitarian aspect and the wildlife. So it's been very, very well received because people want to do something nowadays. They really want to get involved. So they can sign a petition from the magazine, they can click to become a volunteer, they can donate to a cause, they can call, it's been, and they can watch a video. Sometimes it's a video about children in Haiti or the environment, what's going on in Europe and so on. So it's just been just magical. And like I said, you can watch videos and just be participating and be involved.
And being engaged, as opposed to a hardcover magazine.
Yes, exactly. And it's instantly accessible. So I'll just go over the section that I cover. So I have global futurism, which is all about future trends, and I have neuroscience, I have homeopathy with Dr. Payam Hakimi, I have epigenetics with Stephen Manatring here, and I have health and fitness, and I cover art. And the beauty is that with the internet and my computer in front of me and a magazine, I can just search, find a beautiful artist anywhere around the world, contact that person, say, I'd love to feature your art. And sometimes artists have a cause as well. So we cover everything, and I can put a slideshow of the art, and so I can show a lot. There can be a lot of information. I also cover food. I have a wonderful chef every month that shows a recipe and a video of the recipe. And I have a new section to announce. We have a beautiful luxury travel section. And we have...
and I think, Brigitte, I think I saw you can also shop on your
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Yes, the ads are hyperlinked even. So it's great for advertisers because it's connected to their website or their store. So it's been a fun journey.
Yes,
really
very
fun.
exciting. And you told me that it's growing really fast.
Yes. Like I said, we are in 17 countries already. The readership is increasing all the time, and we're very excited. And all my contributors are just delighted to be part of it.
And you know, I was wondering because I know of other digital magazines, but they usually came after, like
a print.
Yes.
Yes.
So are you unique in that?
Yes,
regard?
it's not
That's what I
printed.
thought,
We can print it. The readers can print it if they want, and there's a PDF file generated, and we can order a print copy. But that's not the intent. The intent is to make it interactive so that people get involved. You know, people participate in some way or another.
And you know, we better think of giving the link.
So yes, so the link for the magazine is you can access it through the website, and it's perromagazine.com, and it's spelled P as in Peter, ERREAULT, like Tom. So perromagazine.com, and you click. And it's just going to open up automatically on your screen, and
and it's monthly.
It's monthly. It's a monthly publication. Yes, and it's global.
All right. So you have a lot of columnists.
Yes.
Mana is one of them.
Mana is one of them. He covers epigenetics, which is a fascinating field.
Growing.
And yes, he submits these beautiful articles every month, like all the others, and it's just been great. It was wonderful. Very interesting science.
Yes. Mana, would you define the term for us, because it's triggering a lot of interest, but I'm not sure everybody knows what it is. So
well, first of all, I want to thank you for
such a pleasure
giving us the opportunity to bring awareness to your listeners.
Yes. No, thank you for being here.
And I definitely want to thank Bree for honoring me to be here with you guys. So
thank you, man.
It's everything is a team. I see it more and more, the community forming in every aspect of one's life. There's community, you know. But epigenetics is something I think that one needs to become very conscious of if they want to change or shift the quality of their life. Okay. Up to now, I think science has been looking at the genetics of things, the fate of things based on our biology. Okay, so epigenetics is everything other than what's enclosed in the cell membrane. Epi means above, genetics means within. Okay, so this is all the influences outside of the cell that radiate a frequency, because everything is energy, okay? Radiate a frequency that the receptors on the DNA read. They read the environment, inner, the way we think, our attitude, our moods, our beliefs, even the way we speak, okay? They read all that, the DNA. But they also read the air we breathe, the food we eat, the culture we are brought up in, okay? And they communicate to the cells their instructions for their optimum function, okay? But when they read illusion, we have disease. When they read what is in harmony with nature, we have nourishment and celebration. So epigenetics is all the influences outside the cell that we can become conscious of, bring into our life, so we have charge of our fate.
So if I understand well, this is how the environment or our thoughts can affect our genetics, or just influence our health and...
Well, I want to make it clear that the DNA is other than being changed. The DNA is the blueprint. It's the warehouse of information. It just holds information. What is happening is that the DNA is reading signals that are false data.
Okay.
And then based on that false data, they communicate to the cells their function. So when they read doubt, worry, anxiety, jealousy, fear of any type, then they set the body up for what we all know as the flight or fight syndrome.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yes.
And that creates a decrease in our immune system and allows us to be susceptible to everything
vulnerable.
around.
So, but the good news, if I follow you, is that maybe we can reverse that if we're aware of, that.
Not only can we reverse it in this life, but we can reverse it in generations, because
great.
epigenetics is carried into generations. It is passed down in generations.
Are we out of time, or do we still have a little bit of time? We can. Oh, good. So maybe we need an hour or two. Tell us. I think you published an article in the last issue of the Pero magazine, and it was about language.
Yes, I've been writing for Bree since the beginning of her magazine in January.
Mm-hmm. So you were friends before, right?
Yes.
We are.
Okay.
We are. We are. We've worked together before in healing as well. And can you repeat the question?
I think language sculpting.
Oh, yes, yes. So in the past, and I think it was May's issue, I wrote a column on basically about language sculpting.
Mm-hmm.
What is language sculpting? Okay. No one's heard of language sculpting, but if you take into perspective that words carry frequency, intent is frequency.
Yes.
Intent comes out in words, and words go out as frequency that we actually are affected by internally. Not only outwardly, but internally, because the DNA reads those words. Reads that frequency. And it undermines the harmony of our body. So I wrote an article on language sculpting. In other words, there was a dear friend of mine in Hawaii. Her name was Star Newland. She actually first taught me about the frequency of words and how we could change our biology simply by changing the way we speak. And in order to change the way we speak, this is what I found out afterwards, is that we have to become aware of our thoughts.
Yes.
So if we can catch our thoughts before we put them into speech, what a beautiful place, what a wonderful world we'd be living in.
Yes.
Everything would be like beautiful and love.
That's a beautiful theory or process.
Yeah. So a lot of the words that we use are considered common language, okay, that we use every day, unknowingly, that it's carrying a lower vibration and undermining our abundance and our health and our joy and our celebration of why we're here to begin with. So the Dalai Lama said in his book of Art of Happiness, and I'm sure everybody has heard of it or read it, is that in order to change something, you first have to become aware of what it is that you want to change. So awareness is the key to changing the quality of your life. It's very, very simple. It's based on perception. Okay? Perception creates perspective. Usually you need 2 points of reference for a perspective. Okay, so now we have 2 points of reference. Now we know we have a choice. Okay? So the choice to me is very simple. It's either an unloving choice or it's a loving choice. It's not a good or bad choice or a better or worse choice. It's either unloving or loving. And when I focus on that choice, then my experience, based on my perception, becomes my reality.
And you're a therapist, Mana, right?
I'm a student of life.
You're a student of life. But I mean, can people reach out to you?
Oh, yes.
That's
I have
what
a private practice,
Uh-huh.
absolutely, in Malibu.
Okay.
And I have a website.
Which
it's
is?
called epigenetic-therapy.com. Epigenetic-therapy.com.
Okay.
And I would also like to announce that we're going to start webinars, Mana and I,
Yes.
on
Yes,
epigenetics.
yes.
Yes,
Okay.
we're going to start next month. through, well, in July at some point. We don't quite know the date yet, but we will announce it on the website. And so if people want to sign up and subscribe, but also for the magazine, it's at no cost. The magazine is free.
Oh,
and we'd love to get
yeah.
a nice momentum going, because it's going to be quite fascinating. Yes.
So you already have a list of webinars that you know you're going to do, or do you know about the first one? Or
Well, no, we haven't done the list.
We haven't done the list, but Bree asked me to be on her first webinar.
Yes.
And I'm very happy to do that. And it'll be great, because we'll have a lot of, we want participation on this webinar. Yes.
Yeah, and you said it's starting
in July.
In July.
Oh,
Yes.
You'd better get ready.
Yes. Yeah. But I want to say one more thing,
Yes,
is that, and I have to say this because it's so for me, it's so blatantly true, that Perot magazine is a conscious lifestyle magazine. And it's really an epigenetic influence.
So if you read it, you're going to feel better already.
Absolutely. It changes your whole pathology, your whole biology.
That's
and Dr.
nice.
Bruce
Thank you,
Lipton, who's written many books on the biology of belief and spontaneous evolution, it's substantiated in science.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. But it's true that when you go through the page, first I love the sound of
so the page is turning. Yeah.
And it's not cold at all. You would think maybe you don't have the feel of the paper, but it's not. It's very
it's
beautiful.
colorful. Yes.
And you
It's
can
very
go
nice.
back, and very easy to go. I'm surprised it's free. It's great.
Thank you so
and
much.
and you have advertisers, right?
Yes, I have advertisers, and then again, for people who are interested in advertising or participating to webinars and signing up to our subscribers list, they can send an email to info, like information, info, at perot-mag.com. So it's perreault-mag.com.
So that's the email to subscribe. But if they go to
Yes, they can subscribe through the magazine as well. There's a couple of areas where they can click on the subscribe button, and it leads them to the page where they can just sign up.
Very good. Josh, let me know if we have 3 minutes. Fantastic. Brigitte, I wanted to ask you, you also write on the magazine yourself?
Yes, I'm in charge of the causes and the art. So as I said before, every month we feature a different person, a man with a cause or a woman with a cause. And that's been just so wonderful, just great, because I meet people that do grand things with their life. I mean, they're just involved in a large scale, and they affect the world. So it's I'm happy to write about those people, and they can be from anywhere around the world. And we can put again trailers, videos, donate, link, and people want to become a volunteer, they can just contact that organization through the magazine. And also the art. I have met some incredible artists, very, very high end, from different parts of the world already, and it's my 7th month, so it's been very, very exciting.
So, and you don't necessarily have to travel to meet with them, or do you?
Well, no, we do the interviews via Skype or via email or the phone. We're just, it's easy today. And I'm happy to say that I interviewed Julian Lennon last week.
Good for you.
And so he's my man with a cause for July, and he has a beautiful cause. It's called the White Feather Foundation. And it's about clean water campaign. And since he's an artist and a musician, he filled out my whole section.
Right in.
So yeah, we've had a great momentum, and it's just magical, really. Really beautiful.
And you, Mana, your next article, do you know what it will be? Because you write every month, or
I write every month.
Okay.
I just submitted the new one, which is actually, it's called...
About
we have to read the magazine to know.
Transcending Fear,
yes.
The Epigenetics of Spiritual Awakening.
That's sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. Mala, give us your website again.
Okay, it's epigenetic-therapy.com.
And people can learn about epigenetics on your website?
Yes, they can.
And they can also contact you?
They can contact me as well. Get all
and
the
Mana
information.
can do sessions via Skype as well, which is great too.
I do private sessions over the phone, Skype, people's homes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, both
Thank
of
you
you,
so
Brigitte
much,
and Mana.
Raphael.
Maybe
Thank
we'll
you so
have
much.
other, opportunities to talk
Yes,
further.
that would be wonderful. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, both of you. Thank you for listening to Here's to Your Health. We're going to listen to a few messages and we'll be back. Thank you.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
It started out like a totally normal day.
I love you.
I mean, I guess I was a little sweaty and I was definitely sore. I thought I had gas. Turns out I was having a heart attack. Heart disease is the #1 killer of American women. So now I take care of myself and tell the other women in my life to do the same. Make it your mission to save your life and the lives of the women you love. Find out more from the American Heart Association at goredforwomen.org.
How's it going?
I'm having a stroke.
Are you going to shake my hand?
I'm having a stroke.
Wow, you're not even moving your arm.
I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear. Look for FAST. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911 immediately. Know the sudden signs. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Hubert's Lemonade, tasty, refreshing, sweet, and tart. Happiness in a bottle. Visit Hubert's Lemonade at hubertslemonade.com. Once again, that's hubertslemonade.com. Happiness in a bottle. Xavier Tees and Tots, groundbreaking fashion, forward street smart designs. Tees and Tots for men, women, and boys. Visit XavierUSA.com. Once again, that's XavierUSA.com. This is Shaquem Williams, and I'm with the Shock Factor here on LA Talk Live. We would like to introduce to our small businesses our new business directory for the month of June 2014. So let me explain how it works. We will set you up with 100 commercials, 3 times a day, every day, and 4 times a day on the weekends at peak hour for 1 whole month. And that's not all. We'll even provide you with your own professional audio commercial. For more information about joining our new business directory here at LA Talk Live, please contact Shakim at latalklive.com. That's SHAKIM at latalklive.com.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
And welcome back to Here's to Your Health. My name is Dr. Hans Kugler, co-host on LA Talk Live, Here's to Your Health. And today we have an absolutely magnificent interview scheduled for you. The big buzz right now is Product B. What is Product B? Well, over the past few years, I have been telling you about the importance of telomeres, stem cells, good health practices, and the importance of telomeres comes in with the recognition that telomeres are actually slowed down. That means the telomere shortening is slowed down by good health practices. That was the very first important discovery. Like, for example, if I'd ask you a question, what is the strongest factor in preventing cognitive losses? Do you know the answer? No. obviously, it was just discovered, and that is resistance exercise, weight exercises. What is the strongest factor in slowing down telomere shortening? Again, it's got to do with exercise, and exercise in respect to weightlifting, resistance, muscle exercises. Well, let's go back. There's a couple of steps because we have online here Dr. Bill Andrews, one of the leading researchers in the field of telomere research. And let me just give you a little bit of background. Telomere research actually goes into the area of almost religious philosophies because every species on Earth has telomeres. Well, what are telomeres? They are the extensions, little extensions at the end of your DNA molecules. They are the longest at the time of birth. For humans, we have about 54 subdivisions. Every time when a cell divides, it chops off one of those cell divisions. And if we wouldn't kill ourselves with other stupid things like drugs or smoking or wrong health practices, by the time all 54 subdivisions of those telomeres used up would be about a maximum lifespan of about 110 to 120. Well, it gets even better. Other good health practices, including nutrition, vitamin D, for example. There is another area where telomere shortening is accelerated, and that's, for example, stress. Right? This is another area. Dogs, for example, have only about 15 subdivisions and therefore a maximum lifespan of about 23 to 25. And the Galapagos tortoise has about 75. That represents a maximum lifespan of about 250. And the doctors recently have made a test, a blood test, where you can actually have the remaining part of your telomeres checked, tested. That means your remaining life potential. Well, at first, a little bit some of the good news. A lot of these things are discussed in my book, Lifelong Health, and the book was originally written to create money for our research. Well, we have a donor, and this originally $17 ebook is now the condition by the donor. He gives us some money, but we want you to sell this book as an ebook for a mere $1.99. So if you go to Barnes & Nobles or Amazon and you will look for Lifelong Health, learn how to control your genes to stay young with age, you will find, and keep checking for that, the book at a cost of only $1.99. Now, if you don't have a device to read ebooks, for example, like an iPad, right, or a Nook, you can go to Barnes & Noble on the internet. You can download Nook for your PC for free. Anyway, and from here on we go. Well, Dr. Andrews, are you there?
Yes. How are you doing?
Oh, it's absolutely magnificent. This is one of the most fascinating areas in aging research. You know, I started aging research in 1972 in Chicago when I was professor of chemistry at Roosevelt University in Chicago. And we started subjecting animals to all kind of good and bad health practices and measuring lifespan increases. And our experiments culminated in one big experiment which involved actually 40 cages of cancer-prone animals. We used retired breeders, animals equivalent to average lifespan people. And we subjected one group to all the wrong health practices, and that included cigarette smoke blown through the cages and no exercise. And the other group, all the right exercises, which included antioxidant supplementation, quality nutrition, carbon-filtered drinking water, exercise, naturally no cigarette smoke. And guess what? The difference was close to 100% in average lifespan. And Professor Emanuel Churaskin from Alabama University School of Medicine, we worked together on several projects after that. And when we repeated the same experiment without the exercise, guess what? Everything dropped by about 50%. And that was a big start for our longevity studies and rearranging health practice to the point where they are today. But having you on the line here, that was one of my goals for a long time, because I started taking product B several months ago, and I recognize I'm really feeling good. So tell us a little bit about your involvement with telomere research and where we're heading.
Well, first let me say I'm not doing anything new. I mean, tremendous amounts of work by you and others have already been done in the field of anti-aging. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take it just one step further. I mean, we're already like living 40 years longer than average, even 100 years ago, just because of all the research that's been done. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it so that we can go the next step further, so that we can actually live beyond 120 and still be healthy. My benchmark right now is that I want to see somebody run a 7-minute mile when they're 130 years old. When that happens, I know that there's going to be some big discovery made in aging that's going to exceed what we know now, because right now we are limited by the length of our telomeres. And telomeres are the tips of our chromosomes. They get shorter on average of about 50 to 100 bases every time our cells divide. But the point is they get shorter, and it's like a ticking clock. You can actually measure the length of the telomeres, and you can tell from the length how old a person is, and more importantly, how long it'll be before they die of old age. There's absolutely nothing they can do about it right now, because they can live to be as old as possible, which is 125 is a theoretical maximum given telomere lengths. But they can't live beyond that, no matter how well they exercise, do everything their doctors say, etc. So you know, we're really good at getting people closer and closer to 125, but we still have this maximum that we can't exceed unless we figure out a way to prevent telomere shorting.
And that's when the telomerase enzyme comes in.
That's the way I'm doing it. Yeah, I led the research that discovered the human enzyme called telomerase, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to get all of our cells to produce it through natural products and other methods too. But natural products are definitely the preferred choice here. We want to be able to induce an enzyme called telomerase that then re-lengthens our telomeres. And that's the goal of the research that I'm doing, and some of the products that are on the market right now, especially product B, are products that at least are demonstrating really good data in vitro. When we test it on human cells in a petri dish, for instance, we do see that the telomerase gene does get expressed from product B, and clinical studies are underway right now to see how that relates to actual humans. But every study so far has shown that turning telomerase on in all animal studies and stuff like that have shown that it lengthens telomeres and makes the animal healthier and live longer. So as soon as the clinical studies are done with humans, we'll definitely be publishing those. But because this is all natural products, it's available for people now, even though the clinical studies aren't done yet.
Well, I recall an experiment where in cell cultures, scientists inserted the telomerase gene, and that cell culture now was literally lived forever, because every time when a segment of the telomere was chopped off, the telomerase enzyme added a segment to it, and it just kept going. Right? That was what I think a very, very important picture. But here is...
I think you're referring to my 1997 publication,
yes,
where we did it for the first time. And those cells are still not showing any signs of aging. In fact, they're just younger. They're just healthy. Their chances of having mutations have decreased tremendously. It's remarkable how well cells can survive healthy if you keep the telomeres long.
Yes. Well, I'm holding up here a container of product B, which I find absolutely fascinating. I mean, I've been in this field since 1972. And I tell you, I would classify this approach here as probably the approach of the century, because I myself have been using it for the last few months. Well, it's very interesting. When something new comes up, I subscribe to it. It's actually sold on a multi-level marketing basis. And if you wanted to read a little bit more about it, you can go to my website, drhanskugler.com. drhanskugler.com, and you find updates about telomeres and telomerase and what's going on in this field. And if you're interested in this area, there's a little questionnaire you can fill out. It'll come to me, and then we will communicate and see what direction possibly you can get involved with, right? But the important part, the very important part here is we are finally having something where we can get our hands on. And relative to TA65, which was a product several years ago that was totally overpriced, they sold it for, I believe, for a 6-month supply for $5,000. And this one here is a mere $77, right? And now that makes sense, right? Anyway, and you could also write to me if you wanted to, drhanskugler.com. DRKUGLER, the number 1 at Verizon.net, and we can communicate. Okay, we have just a couple of more minutes to go. What else?
Well, let me just say that product B contains more than just things that potentially lengthen telomeres. It also contains all the stuff from the pioneering work that you and others did a long time ago with antioxidants and are showing the importance of decreasing oxidative stress. So it's a mixed package of a lot of things that can benefit health and stuff like that. So just want to add that.
Well, what else should we, let's say, point out here? Again, if you're just listening in, you wanted to read a little bit more about telomeres and how they affect your overall rate of aging, how you can tell by having a blood test done what your remaining life potential is, how you can increase telomere lengths or slow down the telomere shortening with good health practices, you can go to my book, Lifelong Health, Learn How to Control Your Genes to Stay Young with Age. It's an e-book. And keep checking. We've just lowered the price to $1.99 because we have a donor. We are a non-profit educational organization to bring the message of good health practices, quality living to the population at large. And this donor told us, you want to do something about it? I'll give you some money, but you sell that book at a ridiculously low price, and then everybody will be happy. And that's what you can do. Go to Barnes & Noble, Amazon, look it up. And if you don't have a device to read an ebook, like iPad or Nook, you can go to Barnes & Noble and download Nook for PC for free. It doesn't cost you anything. Anyway, and
I'm looking forward to reading your book myself. If I just go to Amazon and do search for the word telomere, what's the keyword search?
No, just go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble and type in Lifelong Health, and you'll get to my book. Okay, well, Dr. Andrews, it was a pleasure having you on the show here, and we will continue our investigation and follow up on the anti-aging approaches that are now proven a scientific reality.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor to be on your show.
Thank you. Thank you.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
It started out like a totally normal day.
I love you.
I mean, I guess I was a little sweaty and I was definitely sore. I thought I had gas. Turns out I was having a heart attack. Heart disease is the #1 killer of American women. So now I take care of myself and tell the other women in my life to do the same. Make it your mission to save your life and the lives of the women you love. Find out more from the American Heart Association at goredforwomen.org.
How's it going?
I'm having a stroke.
Are you going to shake my hand?
I'm having a stroke.
Wow, you're not even moving your arm.
I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear. Look for FAST, F, face drooping, A, arm weakness, S, speech difficulty, T, time to call 911 immediately. Know the sudden signs. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to Here's to Your Health. Another segment of best information about how to be healthy, live longer, stay fit. And let me start this with a publication that just came out of where? Well, naturally, Germany, Dresden University, that showed that age 85 and older, if you do it right, you can increase muscle mass, you can improve your health, you can do body shaping, and there are absolutely no limitations. And along those lines, we had him before, Mr. Sonny Reeser. He's one of the brains who always wants to build the best health clubs that we have available. And in our area here, Mr. Reeser, Sonny, my friend, is involved in the Coast Fitness Health Clubs. So tell us a little bit more about it. What made you do all this stuff? I mean, you could retire. You have enough money. You have a gorgeous wife. You could travel around the world, do scuba diving everywhere else.
Well, I was after being in the health club business for 50 years, I did retire, and after about 4 years, I thought to myself, there's a need for a health club that's more in general in all forms of fitness rather than just one or two types. And so I developed a club where I have basically everything. It's like a candy store of fitness, so for every age and for every level. Yeah, I don't know if there was a fight on this weekend where the fighter was coming out of a year retirement. He was talking about how he had trained doing just strictly CrossFit along with his boxing routine. And he did an unbelievable job. It was a 12-round fight, and the guy had never been 12 rounds before. And he said that it was all based on the fact that he had done a different form of exercise, more like the CrossFit training. So we have CrossFit, we have yoga, we have MMA, we have spin classes, we have group exercise class. We have something for everybody. And that seems to be the direction that the country is going in.
What location are you? Where are you?
We're at 5051 El Segundo Boulevard, right next to the Hawthorne High School there. You exit off the freeway, and it's virtually 1,000 feet from there is the club.
So if somebody wants to come and take a look at it?
We have an ability, person can go there, ask for a day pass, look it in, try it out, see if they like it, find the thing that they're the most interested in. If they're not, if they don't know what they're interested in, we'll help them. We'll be able to evaluate them, have our trainers evaluate them, and show them what's the best for them.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I worked out at your health club, I thought, well, after I finished, I could have gone maybe through a little bit of a stronger workout. The next day, I was so worn out. It was unbelievable because the equipment is just absolutely fantastic. Every equipment has so many ways to adjust for the right position, the right muscle use. And in special areas, for example, in my case, many years ago during the military, I jumped out of a second-story building during maneuvers. I was hanging outside the building, and the bad guys were coming, and I looked down and I thought, oh, that was soft ground, I can do that. And I let go, and it turned out it was concrete with dirt on it, had drizzled on it, and I wasn't thinking I had a 50-pound pack on my back, and from that day, my low back was so messed up, it's unbelievable. And nothing except every 2 or 3 weeks, a chiropractic adjustment that would help me. Now, at your club, you have a very simple machine for low back. And I used it the very first time. You lay on this machine, one leg is angled, the other one is stretched. You pull a lever and it lifts your leg. You do this a few times, right, left leg, and I did it 3 times. And 3 days later, I said, whoa, this is amazing, right?
Yeah, you're referring to a piece called a Techno Gym backstretch. And we have actually 2 of those. One works the glutes, open up the hips. The other one is for the lower back. And that machine, like you have said, we're actually going to have to buy another set because it's used all the time.
Yeah, I mean, the word gets around.
Yeah, it's very specific exercise.
Yeah.
But, I was watching you when you were training in there. In fact, I was walking through it while you were doing those exercises. And as I said to you, after 50 years of doing this, I've hand-selected every piece that's in there. And all of them have the capacity to work all body sizes as opposed to just equipment that's just for big guys or small guys.
And that was just, I mean, whatever people you were involved with, isn't that just another health club? I mean, we had people there, Arnold Schwarzenegger working with us, right? I mean, years ago. We had very recently, a couple of weeks ago, I was invited to a big reception on a yacht in Marina del Rey for Bill Shatner, right? Bill Shatner came to our club. And at first, everybody thought, oh, well, there's just an actor who acts like a tough guy. When he laid down and did some bench pressing, everybody shut up. It was really fantastic,
Well, the club has been very, very well accepted, and we're doing a tremendous job in getting people in shape. And it's, the whole concept there is to try to find something that fits for you, the individual. And hopefully we've got the right number.
Well, yeah. Oh, definitely. No question about it. Yeah. And I mentioned that before. The health practices to achieve optimum health used to be, well, we have nutrition and exercise and stress management. Nowadays, with all the findings and good results about the importance of exercise, we now have exercise, detoxing. Well, what is a detoxing? Detoxing is normally the best method of detox is a sauna-based, niacin-based sauna detox, and you have all the equipment there, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you have a sauna that for this, and scientists have shown if you get into the sauna, take some non-flushing niacin beforehand, and bang, the materials, the toxic chemicals actually come out of your body. And I mentioned this before, a lot of these basic health practices are redefined in order now from exercise to detox and nutrition supplements were discussed in my book, Lifelong Health. And Lifelong Health, because we have a donor, thank you God, that gave us some money to promote health practices. He made it a requirement we sell this book for a mere $1.99. It's an ebook available at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. So you can go there. Just type in Lifelong Health and you will get to the book. And if the price hasn't been brought down to that level yet, just check a couple of days later. It will definitely be so. And we have also defined the exercise program according to what you just mentioned. I mean, the different approaches to do exercise, circuit training, super circuit, right? I mean, people used to say, oh, you have to exercise an hour a day, every day. That's the biggest nonsense there is. I'm with doing it right. You can actually do it better and with much less time required. Isn't that right?
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
Anyway, so I guess that's the important part. Give us the address again.
5051 El Segundo Boulevard, right next to Hawthorne High School on El Segundo Boulevard.
Right. And if anybody wants to go over there, say we sent you, and we can talk about the different approaches. You know, we have instructors that can show you around. It's just amazing when you go there and you just look at that, you know?
Well, it's been a lifelong dream of myself to put a club together that would have everything in one under one roof. I think the only thing we don't have is a swimming pool and a basketball court. But those actually are exercises that I'm not all that excited about.
Yeah, I don't either. You know, this is more like fun relaxation. You know, it's not the real stuff. You know, actually, a long time ago we had on the board Dr. Paul Ward, an Olympic trainer who is actually known as the godfather of the super circuit, right? And he actually was the one to initiated my change in going from the more aerobic to the more muscle exercises. And at the recent American Academy Anti-Aging Medicine meeting in Las Vegas, that was in in December of last year, I go through the exhibit halls, and there's a company that measures body composition. And they say, Dr. Kugler, we have a new approach here. And I thought, I know all this, big deal. And then they said, yeah, we have this. Okay, fine, do it. And it came out that my body fat was as low as 10.9%, which is actually too low for me, right? And it turned out that I was pushing not really in the wrong direction, but I was using the same approach, and it was just much more effective than I thought it would be. And now, in the meantime, now I can allow myself, I eat a little bit more, I do the right exercises, I can adjust everything else. It is absolutely magnificent. And again, I remind you, the exercise is now the #1 good health practices. And we talked a little bit before about telomere shortening and telomeres, the importance of telomeres. The muscle exercises will actually prevent or slow down telomere shortening. That's a very important part, right?
Well, Hans, I think also you hit a real strong note with myself was the resistance training. Mm-hmm. Because just exercise alone doesn't necessarily always do it. You have to have some resistance training where you're actually resisting your muscles against some other force.
Yeah.
Because that's the real secret. That's where it really develops.
Right. And that's really very often when I do personal fitness or general health practice counseling, the response from women is very often, oh, I don't want to become muscular like a man. Well, there's a very simple guideline. It's called the 1RM, the 1 repetition max. For any machine that uses kind of resistance weight, you try to work up to the point of find out what is the maximum you could do with 1 repetition, right? But you don't really go up there, you estimate. And if you wanted to build muscle, you do it with more than 50% of that 1 RM. And if you wanted to just lean like women, you do it with less than 50% of you more repetitions. And you're right there, and you get results that you will just love. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to our magnificent, originally created by Josh Lane, Here's to Your Health talk show.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Young Connection, your one-stop connection for all your graphic design and commercial printing needs. Young Connection is a full-service printing and media design company dedicated to providing the highest level of customer service and satisfaction. Young Connection provides swift response and rapid turnaround services for banners, brochures, business cards, letterheads, church bulletins, funeral programs, flyers, logo design, posters, and much, much more, all at an affordable price. Young Connection, the official printing company of LA Talk Live. Give them a call at 310-491-3336. That's 310-491-3336, or visit their website at www.youngconnection.com. That's www.youngconnection.com. Young Connection Printing and Media Services, proud sponsors of LA Talk Live, where it's more than just talk.
This is Shaquem Williams, and I'm with the Shock Factor here on LA Talk Live. We would like to introduce to our small businesses our new business directory for the month of June 2014. So let me explain how it works. We will set you up with 100 commercials, 3 times a day, every day, and 4 times a day on the weekends at peak hour for 1 whole month. And that's not all. We'll even provide you with your own professional audio commercial. For more information about joining our new business directory here at LA Talk Live, please contact Shaquem at latalklive.com. That's SHAKIM at latalklive.com.
directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'd like to thank my co-hosts, Raphael Cohen-Bacry and also Dr. Hans Kugler. I'm your host, Josh Lane. And my next guest is Dave Sandoval, who, like Raphael Cohen-Bacry and Hans Kugler and myself, has been doing this for a very long time. He works with Gary Null and many others, has his own important radio show in New York City. Dave, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
So how did you get involved with nutrition as a young guy?
You know, there was that first, everybody goes through that, I call it a granola and yogurt phase when you just, when you're young and you want to.
Well, some do, but most people don't, but you did, obviously.
Well, I felt like in California, where I was, everybody was going through that. And I sort of, that interested me a little bit, but what really happened was a tragedy, and the Chinese say out of every tragedy, there's three parts. There's the pain and suffering, and that's what we see with these eyes. And then there's the opportunity, and that's what you have to see with your third eye. And it took me a while to understand what that meant, but I was unfortunate and fortunate to come from a very challenged family life. And finding myself on my own at a young age, my aunt and uncle offered to take me in. 6 months later, my auntie had died of multiple sclerosis. The experts said it was because of the food she ate, and I vowed that that would not become me. And that's when I began to examine the work of Ann Wigmore, Bernard Jensen, Hannah Kroger, Paul Bragg, Dr. Christopher, the same people who you admire, the same people who you probably, as I say, studied at their feet.
And Herbert Shelton, too. Natural hygiene was a biggie for me, really.
Absolutely, yes. There are so many others, but those were my big five. I would have to add a face to my Mount Rushmore because those were my big five.
And you found right away when you started experimenting with food that, you did right away. You said, no, I feel better, right? This is working for me.
Well, it wasn't about me at that time. I was young and healthy. I was helping Ann to serve wheatgrass to people who were anything but healthy.
What years were you there?
Gosh, it was around 79, 80 was when I came back. So just before that, probably. Viktoras Kovinskis was around there. Bernard Jensen had just left. Viktoras became a friend. We went on to work in Hawaii together a tiny bit, but the bottom line is that when you serve people energy soup and when you gave them, these sprouts and these grains and these green juices and this Rejuvilac, as it became to be known, you saw that yellow go out of their eyes. You saw the color come back to their skin. You saw the smile come back to their faces. And for some of them, you saw that smell of death that was impending go away. And that's what let me know that she was on the right track. And the things that she described had not yet been discovered, had not yet been proven, had not yet been seen by microscope so powerful, and yet she described what was happening in the inner workings of the cell and how the human body was healing itself.
So do you today, in 2014, now obviously everyone knows a lot more than they knew in 1980, what does your new book, The Green Food Bible, discuss that really none of us really knew in 1980 or 1985 or 1990 or 1995 for that matter?
I don't think it describes anything we didn't know. I think it may make sense of the things that we've been told and didn't know how to connect the dots. For example, Ann Wigmore taught us two basic things, and I tell everyone, if you want to become the greatest healer, whether it be adding to your age or looking younger, feeling stronger, fighting disease, you only need to know two things. And that is, number one, make sure your cells do not suffer from malnutrition. Nourish your cells properly. And number two, make sure your body does not suffer from the overburdening of toxins. So if you detoxify properly and nourish properly, you become the greatest healer on the planet. You could describe it in 1,000 fancy ways, but that is it. It's that simple.
All right. And this, the Green Foods Bible, so you're talking about the use of chlorophyll to help heal the body.
Yes. Now remember that chlorophyll and blood, hemoglobin are nearly identical, iron and magnesium being inverted. Remember that without photosynthesis, the very activity of sunlight coming to Earth and being transmuted into oxygen and ozone and the charged minerals that we require, not to mention carbohydrates and proteins that could not be created, and green plants are the basis of the food chain because they create photosynthesis. And yet scientists ignore green plants even though they clearly are the very precipice upon which all life on Earth is predicated.
So you are actually a big fan of wheatgrass, obviously, having been a student of Anne Wigmore. Now, the fact that you and I can go out now to Ralph's or Vaughn's and they have an entire section of kale.
Awesome.
Did you see that coming, by the way?
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, good for you.
Yeah, kale has been the #1 selling vegetable in Japan for 25 years.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yes, chlorella being the #1 supplement sold. They've never really turned on to wheatgrass, although I export about 4 containers a month there of wheatgrass to Japan.
No kidding.
But
Wow.
yes, I saw kale coming way down the line. I've been using it in my formulas forever.
And the fact that it's become a mainstream item, I find that very interesting, and I think it's a very good thing. I am surprised how people have warmed up, in large numbers of people have warmed up to this subject. As a young man doing this, I couldn't see it getting bigger. I just didn't have the foresight for that, or I just couldn't make the jump. So for people who are now listening to us today on LA Talk Live and are using green foods, how should they start? If they're just eating conventional foods, how can they start, Dave?
Okay, here's the main thing. You have to understand that when we talk about alkalizing, we don't start with alkaline water. You start with alkaline foods. Okay. Green foods are the #1 alkalizers. When we talk about extending life, the #1 thing that makes us live a shorter life is the overconsumption of calories. Green foods are bitter, and in Ayurvedic medicine, we learn that bitters shut down our cravings for carbohydrates, shut down our cravings for sugars. They're the antidote to that. And so green foods are integral because they provide magnesium. Magnesium is responsible for all of the sympathetic muscle activities in our body, and they detoxify our body. Not to mention green foods are full of digestive enzymes and antioxidant enzymes, most importantly superoxide dismutase. You could talk about telomerase all day long, and I'll agree that it's probably a good thing, but superoxide dismutase is the ultimate antioxidant enzyme produced by our body, proven by science time and time again. And the reason it's so powerful is because green plants use it to defend themselves from ultraviolet and radioactive light, to virtually repair the damage done by those highly mutagenic substances. If we want to stop mutagenic activity in our body, turn to nature. Phytochemistry is the understanding nature, using plants and the power that they have in our body so we could tap into that power. And green plants have more power because they transmute the very power of Earth, sunlight. They are the distributors of power, of energy. So why would we go anywhere else? The animals we consume have consumed the green leaves that we have bypassed.
Now, when people listen to your broadcast today and they do want to use green juices and green foods, if they've been eating conventionally, they might have trouble digesting all these green foods. Is juicing a very good step forward for them? Or is, for example, eating steamed vegetables a good idea? What's your thinking on the use?
I would juice vegetables, and I would not juice fruits. Fruits, you need the fibers to slow down the sugars from being absorbed through the sugar receptor sites that are below the duodenum in our stomach. And so in order to slow down the digestion of sugars, you need fiber. Okay. However, fruit juices are different than vegetable juices that aren't high in sugar. So you juice the vegetables so the fibers, which are difficult to digest and hold on to the nutrients, are broken down. If you make a kale salad, the best way is to get hot water and to bruise the kale time and time again by punching it through the water and softening up, and then taking out the hard ribs and then marinating it. That's a lot of work to digest that kale, as hearty as it is. But when I juice that kale, like I do wheatgrass, and you put it into, let's say, a juice formula, then it's very easy to digest. But remember, very important, 70% of digestion takes place in your mouth, the chewing and mastication of food. So when you take a juice, don't just guggle it. You got to swish it around your mouth, roll it under your tongue, let those enzymes mix with it so that your body receives it and directs it properly within your digestive system.
That seems like good advice. Well, Dave, it's fun talking to you. Actually, I certainly like your information. And may I ask you kind of a showbiz question? You've been closely associated with Gary Null for many years. Is that correct?
Gary's an amazing man who gave me my start in this industry 20 plus years ago by having me as a guest on his radio show, just as you are doing today.
And what station was that in New York City? Was it?
WOR, WWRL. We were on in Florida, Chicago, Hawaii. I mean, we were pretty much all over the country.
And you also have done some formulations for Gary. Can you say that on the air?
Yeah, I helped design his green stuff, red stuff.
The green and red stuff was big items, were they not?
Yeah, greens and grains. Right. The sea veggie salad. I used to manufacture all those for him. He took the manufacturing to the East Coast because we're West Coast and he distributes from the East Coast. I'm very proud of the fact that I have farms and processing that use a very unique low temperature process to make sure all the enzymes and everything are intact. And so when I failed to, in other words, I guess what I could say is I decided to have my own brand. As fun as it is making products for other people, they might find a lower price manufacturer, a closer manufacturer, something like that. So we have our own brand now, and we're very, very proud of that. And we have many, many green food formulas, like a green food formula for everyone. And everybody goes, why do you have like 12 green food formulas? I say, because one person may not tolerate gluten. You know what I mean?
Right.
Another person may just want chlorella. Another person may want, everything. The kitchen sink type, where I want a little bit of everything in a drink, So that's the reason we do that. But if you ask me what I take every day, you got to love chlorella. You've got to love spirulina, and you got to love wheatgrass. So when you get a blend, you make sure you get yourself some sea vegetables, some grasses, some algae, some land vegetables, and you're doing really well. So to answer your question, I know I avoided it for a little while. I would go and I would look for organic, and I would eat cruciferous vegetables, cabbage, kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cruciferous vegetables. If you're not going to get chlorella, wheatgrass, or spirulina, then you've got to do cruciferous vegetables. They are the most potent cancer-fighting, anti-aging, interdigestion healing foods. You could drink cabbage juice and heal an ulcer. You could eat broccoli and fight cancer. I mean, that's the real deal right there. Cruciferous vegetables in your grocery store, organic. Or you could come and try some of my formulas.
Which is actually very convenient. So Dave, may I ask you a question? Are you a runner? What do you do for physical fitness?
Nothing. I am allergic to exercise. Really? That's a joke. I surf, I play volleyball, I climb mountains.
Okay.
I plant trees. I don't go to gyms. I know that sounds bad, and I practice.
No, it doesn't. No.
I practice a basic yoga called the Tibetan rites, and you can see I give instructions of those on YouTube. They're the
5 Tibetans?
5 Tibetan rites. I also have a 3-minute core workout that is used by beauty queens, actors, actresses, and fighters. In 3 minutes, a day, I will give you a 6-pack, 8-pack, 12-pack. You earn it, whatever you want. 3 minutes a day. And yes, it's true. It really works. And just, check out my videos on YouTube, and you can't go wrong.
Give us your information.
It's Purium Tube, P-U-R-I-U-M, PuriumTube.com, or just Google me, David Sandoval, and let them know that you heard about me on this radio station. If you want to try any of my products, we'll give you $50 off your first order just for being on this show.
Thank you, Dave. Very nice of you. Thank you.
Otherwise, cruciferous vegetables, organic at your grocery store.
Well, Dave Sandoval, listen, I appreciate you being on. You have a lot to say, and you've been doing this for a long time. You're doing it way before it was popular. Of course, I'm glad it's popular. I have to have you back on the show again.
You're awesome, man. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Josh Lane. On behalf of my fellow hosts, Dr. Hans Kugler and Raphael Cohen-Bacry, I'd like to thank you for tuning in today, and please tune in the future. Bye-bye.
LA Talk Live, reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. Stay tuned.